guys, my name is Mboneleli Gqirana. I am from Ikhaya Elitsha Hub and you are watching Ngunified magazine. My name is Mboneleli Gqirana and I am a social entrepreneur, or you can refer to me as a community practitioner, development practitioner. Basically, the work I do revolves around providing development opportunities to the local community, which is Site C within Khayelitsha. And we work mainly with young people who are looking to access jobs, study opportunities and other economic opportunities as well. So we work with a number of programs in order to achieve our objectives and outcomes. Ikhaya Elitsha Hub is a social innovation space and a co-working hub where we have different programs for the community, for the benefit of the community, so to speak. But the organization is run in such a way that we are looking to self-sustain. And so what I mean by that, we are not a traditional non-profit organization in that we incorporate a lot of corporate models into the work that we do. So the work that we do revolves around assisting and linking people mostly to opportunities, because we think information as a commodity is not commonly available to the people who need it. So that is the bulk of the work we do. We also have an after-school program where we work with learners in grades 9 up until grade 11, where we provide after-school support, academic support, we provide psychosocial support, and the like. And so that program is basically us about like linking young people to the relevant careers or opportunities that they want to tap into, because we notice that a lot of students or learners who are in high school, when they choose subjects, they are not intentional, and they are not well informed about the subjects that they choose. So we decided to take it up on ourselves to then provide a platform for them where we provide career advice, career expos, and bring in professionals and bring in entrepreneurs and different people from different fields to sort of speak to the young people and advise them on what the best, according to what they need and according to what they aspire to be, what the best course of action to take is. Because in our communities, there is a lack of, positive role models. And so a lot of what is modeled in our communities is, a lot of negativity. And so we try and source out, those people who are inspirational in our communities, and we bring them to the hub and we bring in young people and we say, if for an example's sake, you are a nurse, take, the learners who want to become nurses through the process of becoming a nurse and to simplify it for them. And so those are the key programs that we work with at the hub. But additionally, I think we also work with a number of other organizations. We provide organizational support and organizational training as well. Because we not only want to benefit from our sets of skills ourselves, but we also want other organizations also as well to, sort of develop in their areas of focus, because we don't work in the same areas. So growing up in Site C in Khayelitsha was, a mixed bag of experiences. But I think for the most part it was, positive experiences, because yes, there were a lot of negative things happening around us, such as your crime at the time as well, gangsterism, and other issues as well that the community was experiencing, and also like big problem that was coming up at the time, like growing up, was also, the issue of HIV and AIDS, and other health issues such as, your tuberculosis and others. But, because we had a huge sense of community, those are things you wouldn't really, that wouldn't, confront your conscience, or those were things that wouldn't be, for an example, they were not things that you used to think of every day, because, everyone, we understood that everyone within the street, in the community, is your parent, the guy next door, or the boy from next door is my sister and is my brother. So, it was really a positive experience for the most part, because there were things we didn't notice about, our childhood experiences. But I think, you gradually you get to learn about different things as a person. As you grow, then other things become more and more pronounced. For an example, you start to notice things like crime. They start to affect you more as a person. You notice things like gender-based violence within the community, which is a pandemic. Then you start to notice, oh, wait a minute, there are things that I might have not necessarily noticed in this community. And so, I think, sure, it was a mixed bag. It was a mixed bag of results, but it was mostly positive, I can say. So in 2009, and I remember quite clearly because I had just matriculated during that year, the previous year. So in 2009, I had applied to different schools looking for placement. I wanted to do marketing at the time. I was so excited, just wanting to do marketing everywhere I went. But as luck or bad luck would have it, when I went, I had applied quite late, and I remember at the time, NSFAS was not covering things such as like your registration fees and stuff like that. So I went into the schools that I had applied to, and quite a number of universities and higher learning institutions had accepted me. And I think the hindrance to studying further was the registration fee, at the time, which was plus minus 3,000. I was like, oh, I can't afford this. And so there's gonna be another way that I need to, develop myself. And I think, staying at home, I spent a period of about 6 months. And I think just after that, I sort of started working on the community, just trying to think back to my years in high school, because I remember then that quite clearly that I had been involved in different projects with outside organizations. And so I went to this one organization and I asked them, hey, can I volunteer? Can I spend my time here? Is there anything you need assistance with? And luckily enough, those guys, they said, yes, you can come through and you can learn. And that is, that's when the journey started in 2009. I started volunteering, getting exposed to different parts of running, a community development project. Doing fundraising, doing program management work, doing advocacy work, doing monitoring and evaluation work. So I've been, through, different aspects of, development work. So that's basically how I got involved in the sector. Sure, that was a tough time. It was also a tough time for me. Sorry, it was 2019. My mother passed away in 2019. It was a horrible time for me. My wife was 8 months pregnant at the time, and literally, my mom was the person whom me and my late brother, whom we sort of always leaned towards her side, because her marriage with my dad was sort of it was a rocky marriage, man. I don't remember a time when my mother was, consistently happy as a person, just generally speaking. She was quite sick, experiencing different, health issues. And within the black family, there's always this dynamic that as a young person, you can't tell an older person what to do. And so, my mother was very stubborn about her health and, dealing with her issues. And so that gap was sort of like, there for most of the time in terms of like also our relationship as well. Our relationship was not the most perfect of relationships. And so eventually my mother passed away in 2019. And I remember quite clearly at the time I was sort of, because we had spent so much time as a family, like I was exhausted. I was like, I'd run out of capacity to deal with all of the issues. We didn't have any money. We, were struggling to take her to clinic and hospital appointments. And so when we passed away, it was sort of like, I don't know, some kind of like relief because, she had suffered a lot. And like I said, I don't remember a time when my mother was like consistently happy because such a lot of things happened in her life. When we spoke, she had told me that she was married off when her parents married her off when she was 17 years of age, and she had been wanting to continue with her schooling, and so she couldn't do that because of the poverty back at home. And so those dynamics continue to influence the marriage right up until she passed away. And so but I think of her every day, and most of what I do, including my little sisters, my siblings, I see my mom's reflection when I look at them, and I think to myself, whatever it is that I do, I'm doing it in her memory, because she was someone as well who had a passion for the community. But although she hadn't gone and studied or done whatever, but she had been involved in a lot of development projects in the community. And so I think that is something that I remember fondly about her. And so that led to us in 2021 establishing a scholarship fund on her behalf. And so at the moment we have 2 people that are currently studying social auxiliary work for a period of about a year. And so that is a fully funded scholarship, and they are studying social auxiliary work. And so that made me proud, and it was sort of like a moment where we sort of like came full circle in terms of like her memory. Malusi Sopazi is a friend of mine, was a best friend of mine at some point. So we were in community development together. I remember I was working for an organization which is based in South. And after some time working with this organization, Malusi came and joined. And we started noticing as we spent more and more time together that we had a lot of things in common, and there was a lot we could share in terms of like our experiences, because he was someone who was very good at unlocking people, just connecting with people, and very, very passionate about community development work, without necessarily focusing on what's in it for him, but like he was very, he seemed to be affected the most by what was happening in the community, crime and other social ills as well. So he used different tools, to sort of like try and take young people out of the streets, getting them into sport, getting them into school, into different activities. And so that's when I met Malusi a couple of years back. I think that was 2014, 2015. That's when we met and we worked together at this particular organization. And so I left the organization. I had to leave after some time to explore other opportunities. And so when I left the organization, Malusi remained behind, and he continued to do amazing work. During this time, we'd also connect and meet up, for lunch or whatever, and talk. I would visit him and he would visit me. And I remember in 2017, 2017 was a very tough year for me. I was depressed, I was going through a lot personally. So there were a number of things that happened in my life, and that year I burned a lot of bridges that year, and that was something that was hard for me to come to terms with and to recover from. And there were a number of other things that had happened during that year. I mean, my mother was not well. She was sick. Just the home situation was not ideal at that stage, and not having an income. And I think when it came to I didn't understand. I also didn't understand myself. I didn't understand what mental health was about. And so a lot of things. I did a lot of bad things that year that closed off opportunities for me in the long run. I sort of started attending counseling sessions, just sort of like reflecting on what had happened. And so on my journey to recovery, because I was based in Cape Town, I thought to myself, you know what, I need to go back. I need to rediscover what it is that had made me this person that I am. And I started approaching the people, sort of that I'd lost contact with, or, I'd done wrong to most people at the time. And, just trying to also take responsibility for that and, account for my actions as well. And so I think Malusi was the only person who was willing to assist me in this. And this was in 2017 going to 2018. And so at the time he was in the Eastern Cape. He was working for a particular project there in Elliotdale, a place called Ikhaya. And so we worked. Malusi was willing to bring me on board. I went in Elliotdale and I worked there with him. After some time, my contract ran out in the Eastern Cape, and then I had to come back to Cape Town. And I think, fast forward also, plus minus 6 months onwards, or Malusi also came back to Cape Town, and we reconnected, and he started working, and I was also working. And I'll just never forget the day. Malusi had been telling me, on and off that, he's struggling with his mental health. And I remember at the time it was during December, and it was quite difficult for us to get psychosocial support for him, such as counseling or therapy, because a lot of places were closed. It happened that someone asked me on Facebook, have you seen Malusi lately? And I was, no, I haven't. And I started thinking again, the last time I saw him had during the New Year's Day. And this person said to me, you know what, Malusi has not been home since the 2nd of January now. The last time anyone saw him was in the 2nd of January. And I was like, oh snap, that's bad. And so we started, mobilizing and meeting with different people, just trying to ascertain what had gone wrong. And for about a year, we went on a campaign, posting on Facebook, doing print-out posters, just trying to search for him wherever he was, just supporting his family as well. And till this day, it's never been found or resurfaced. And it took its toll. It was a roller coaster of emotions. It still is, because I remember a couple of days, it's now 2022, but I remember a couple of days there had been someone whom we'd worked with at this particular organization, me and Malusi, and this person still didn't know that Malusi was missing. And they were asking, and so they were wishing him a happy birthday. And so I had to go and tell them that, I'm not sure whether you know, but Malusi has been missing for about 2 years now. So this person was quite surprised that, is that the case? And, just having to explain to people what happened, because no one really knows what happened and what took hold of him in order for him to just disappear like that. We still don't know to this day. And so it really took its toll on myself, because we were friends at the time. And I think, I started to go through, to relapse back again, the depression story. I started thinking about a lot of things. And there were a lot of things that were said at the time about Malusi and what had possibly happened to him. And I remember at some point, I was one of the people, where certain people pointed fingers to me and said, Malusi's disappearance had something to do with me. And that made the pain worse, because it was like, why would I do anything to Malusi, and someone who had literally took me from nowhere, where no one would touch me, and they had taken me in and said, hey, we can work together again. I know how good you are, I know how skilled you are, and we can continue to work together. And so that was the type of person Malusi was. And so to lose someone like that was like a hard knock. It was a terrible knock. But yeah, we still don't know what happened to him, and it's still hard to accept to this day. But I think Malusi remains a big part of the work that I do. He still is an inspiration to me, because he was open-minded, man. Malusi was an open-minded guy in that he could connect to people, he could connect with people. You could speak to him about anything. You could go to him because he was an approachable person, and he would never ever betray anyone. He was hugely loyal. He was a loyal person, and all he wanted to do was to see Sightsee get better as a community. And so it is still a huge pain when I think about it to this day. So in 2020, it was during the lockdown period. Me and my wife had planned that we're gonna sort of like look for a place to stay elsewhere, and sort of try and develop ourselves as a couple. And while discussing, we discussed various options. Should we keep the house? Should we perhaps sell it? Or what are we going to do? And I'd been speaking to my wife about this particular idea that I had of starting a youth hub within the Sightsee community. And because there weren't, and there still aren't, a lot of positive spaces for young people for expression, especially in our townships. And so I thought, because it's difficult to access, public spaces like halls, and other spaces, because these spaces are controlled by particular people who have their own interests, and who most of the time want you to provide some kind of incentives, such as paying. And so most of us don't have that most of the time. And so we said, how about we use the house as a youth hub? Let's use the house as a space for development in the community of Sightsee. And that's when it started. When we moved in October of 2020, that's when we launched the Youth Hub, and we sort of, during that time, started implementing programs. It was quite difficult. It's also been a roller coaster journey, right up until where we are now in 2022. But I think we've achieved most of the things we set out to achieve. It's been a fulfilling journey. Personally, because I think oftentimes when we get involved in projects or in other community development initiatives, as young people, we have certain ideas and certain ways where we want to express ourselves, but the older generation also has their own ideas about development and how development should be done, and so those tend to clash most of the time. And so we took it upon ourselves to then say, let's start this youth hub and let's see where it takes us. And so it's a space for young people where they can come in, implement programs. We train young people. We do welfare projects, in terms of like food parcels and other development initiatives. Look for opportunities, speak to companies and ask them to consider young people from Sightsee and also the general population in Sightsee. And so it has been a very positive journey in that we've started a number of initiatives, our own scholarship. We've linked a number of young people to job opportunities, learnerships. Some are in school now studying. I think for Sightsee to develop as a community, and I think this also goes for other communities, because there are certain interests that have taken hold in our communities who hold development hostage. And I think it cannot be a situation that continues, because for example, the government, when they want to implement projects in our communities, it can't be a situation where they are going to have to pay certain people in order for development to happen. I think that also takes away from what the government is trying to achieve. And I know for a fact that there are many organizations and individuals, and corporates who want to work within communities, who genuinely do have the intention to assist people and uplift them. But the challenge is there's a disconnect. When people come to our communities, they're often confronted with difficult questions, and they have to, jump through certain hoops. And, this takes away opportunities from the people who deserve them. And you'll find that opportunities are then taken to places where people will find it easy to implement projects. And so I think that is a starting point, and that needs a whole of society approach. It needs us to come together as people to find solutions. It needs us to sit with the police. It needs us to sit with community development workers. It needs us to sit with health practitioners. It needs us to sit with school governing bodies, to sit also as organizations as well, and projects present in communities, because we are also not united and organized in terms of what we want to achieve, because it's also a competition for resources. I, as myself, want to lobby for resources for the hub, but also the next person who's also running a project also wants the very same resources that I'm also lobbying for. So our interests are intertwined. It's just that we have to find a way of working together, where political interests, they have to be taken out completely out of the development agenda. And people need to understand that at the end of the day, when certain people want to assist communities, that needs to happen without any huge, payment fees or protection fees or whatever the case might be. Development is development in the sense that people must benefit directly from whatever it is that, is being implemented. And so if I, as a Mboneleli, I am the stumbling block to that development, it means then the other person who's looking at the community is going to say, no, you know what, I'd rather not take my resources to sightseeing. Let me go to a community that is going to be welcoming to my initiative. And so I think we need to start there, because opportunities are there. It's just that we have to provide the platform and the space for people to connect with these opportunities. And, we have to intentionally assist people. And I think, there's been a lot of improvements. I've seen a lot of improvements, specifically in sightseeing. Because, for an example, if you look at local government, that's where a lot of people interact, with the state machinery. And so when people interact with local government and councillors, they get, sent from pillar to post, because many people will never interact with the provincial government or national government for that matter. I mean, I don't even interact at that level. And so I think there's been positive developments with councillors opening up their offices where they need to make copies, they need to do CVs, they need to email, they need to do whatever it is that they need to do. That is positive, and now we need to channel that into positive and prolonged programs, because these programs must be ongoing. We can't treat them as once-off events, because our problems have developed over time and they evolve, they're ever evolving. And so we also need to be very intentional and innovative about our solutions. And so also partnership is very crucial when you talk of development, because we are not in the business of profiting from people's pain. And so that requires that if Ikhaya Elitsha Hub can't assist people with a certain aspect, then we must be able to refer people to other stakeholders as well. And in order for that to happen, we need to have a relationship with those stakeholders. And so if we continuously work on our relationships and break down these walls that exist, within our communities and us as community leaders, then we'll achieve a lot of things together as a community. As a community development project, we are accountable to the people that we serve, which is community members. And so I think it starts there for us as a project, in that whatever steps we take, for an example, after every quarter, we call regular community engagement meetings where we sit people down and we take them through what we offer as an organization. We regularly call out information sessions, on a weekly or a fortnightly basis, where we call people and we also inform them what's happening at the hub. But to also take that to the next level, I think we need to broaden it more. We need to be speaking more to people who are also, for example, say, not from Site C, and also from people who are in other communities, because there are people who, for us as people in Site C, we might look at ourselves and say, oh, we are not fortunate because there are a lot of challenges. But other people in other communities, for example, they don't even have a youth hub to speak of. They don't even have spaces for young people to speak of. And so you have a lot of young people coming from other communities, wanting to gain access to opportunities. And so I think that is going to be crucial for us as an organization going forward, because in whatever we do, we always want to engage with the community. And in terms of projects in the pipeline, in July we're rolling out, we're strengthening our after-school program. We've been working on it, piloting it with minimal numbers because of the state of disaster and also the lockdown. But now that has come to an end, now we can work, with greater numbers. We're also going to intensify our, employment aspect and also linking people to other economic opportunities. And one of those projects is the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative that we are a beneficiary of. And as part of that program, we are going to be getting people working at the hub. Because working, when you are, volunteering and there are a few people working in the hub, you quickly realize that with the number of people in our communities, you can't reach the level where you want to reach. And so us getting, more work power, guys from colleges who are going to be, getting stipends from government, that is a positive development. And so we are going to use those as a launch pad as well to also, link other young people to these similar and other opportunities as well. And so that's what's in the pipeline at the moment, and a number of other projects that I can't speak of right now.